I might be switching back and forth.
Okay,
great. Hi, everybody. Welcome to this month's episode of Unlimited. As you know, we're doing one pop-up show per month that is different from our Thursday times. And tonight we're really excited, or today we're really excited to have Brad Olsen in town for this Sedona Ascension Retreat. He's an author. Many of you are familiar with his incredible books. He is a man that is, living his curiosity, to say the least. He's traveled all over the world. And really, I mean, these are dense books. We're going to get into them a little bit later, but it's a wealth of information and a wealth of channeled information that is really beautiful. So first of all, I want to give you guys a little update on what happened there in Sedona at the Ascension Retreat. There was a lot of people there.
Oh yeah.
What did you go to sessions, or were you running around talking to people? What was your experience?
Well, my experience was mainly at my book table because I was selling my books, but I was jumping into many of the sessions in the main theater. I did not go to any one-offs. And then I spoke yesterday with Suzanne Ross, the event producer. We have a show that we're proposing called ONE, Operation Unearthed. And so we put together a 90-minute presentation with one of the episodes that we produced. And that was pretty cool. Got to see all that Suzanne's been working on. She's a great video editor, and we're gonna shop that show around to several other networks.
Cool. So what kinds of things are you going to be talking about for the Operation Unearthed?
Well, what we talked about in the presentation was the 13 chakra site locations around the world, including right here in Sedona is number 9. I believe it's the crown chakra. We're here way up high in the chakra levels.
The king.
The
connection to the ETs.
Yeah. Back to
higher realms.
Almost see Boynton Canyon from here out your window. So we're close. We're just down the hill from the airport vortex as well. So it's great to be in a place like this where there's so much earth energy going on, but so many conscious people here as well. And you see that with who comes to these conferences, especially the Sedona Ascension Retreat.
Yeah. So that would be a great show because you'll be on each of these chakra points have really collected people that are of the mind that we're going somewhere. I want in on this somewhere, and let's start figuring it out. I also got a download that there's like another grid happening that's actually one layer above us, and it's got slightly different grid points. So it's interesting the way energy flows, and how knowledge about these grid points has that's where they used to put all the main cathedrals. Paris, Washington D.C. You can measure these electromagnetic fields. They're real, and so working with them creates more effect and creates more influence, right?
Oh, it sure does. And I write about the ley lines all across the planet, not only in my Sacred Places series of books, but also in the esoteric series of books, because this is what that means is knowledge that's privy to a select few. And so by putting these books together, it's a compilation of all the subjects that have been withheld from humanity. And you know what? That's where the fun is. That's where it gets really interesting. And that's why I love them so much and take the time to do these books.
That's so great. Yeah, when we started researching like how Google was blocking all these keywords, we're just like, okay, let's just research those keywords. That's where the fun is, for sure. Cool. So what were the other main stage things? I saw JJ and Desiree's her talk, and they were really talking about, they said there's 8 dimensions total. We're probably already in 4. Some of us are probably in 5, and they talked about this, the extra celestials and the extra dimensionals.
Yep.
And
ultra terrestrials.
Ultra dimensionals. And it's really interesting because when someone was first telling me that, they were like, oh yeah, at some point you just decide to dissolve completely into a collective.
Yeah.
Like you go, I never want to be Brad Olsen again. I never want to be my soul, whatever you are, and all the things. And you go, okay, cool. I just want to dissolve. And so that's an interesting concept for us that are so low down in the trenches, you know, because we become attached to these little stories we've created, you know, but really it's interesting, right?
Well, I want to be Ellen Steinfeld, who got an award. I was there on stage presenting it to him for all the great work he's done. And Ellen's at all these conferences. And of course, his book, Making Contact, is so instrumental. Tonight, we're all going to be meeting up for a CE5. Let's see if we can draw the ships down. And Alan will have his book, Making Contact. That'll just be at the forefront. So, you know, we're all ready to go here.
I know. I've been like, Zazar's going to be there. I have been feeling tonight, you know, I said, like, I've been feeling this in the field. And those of you who are in other places in the world, the country, there's a new app called Enigma that is very, very well designed. I could not have done this better. It's so cool. And it's open-minded people doing research, and you can report your sightings, and other people, you know, you'll get alert if it's right in your thing, you go look out the window. So get ready, because we're going to bomb the field tonight with love and all this like fun stuff. I wanted to bring Coffee on too, to talk a little bit about Daryl Anka's presentation. And also, you know, she had a very activating experience with Vivian Chauvet and Chauvet and Peter. You know, they're going to be coming to us for Contact 250 in Japan. So you guys get those passports going, because we're going to Japan in September, working on all the last minute details before we announce it. But, you know, well, I'll let Coffee talk about it, but they were definitely one of the most interesting technologies there that Peter had.
Yeah, so hi everyone, I'm Coffee. I work with Senka. I'm her operations manager, and I had a brilliant time at this retreat. It's just really been a whole magical situation. First, of course, I got to attend Bashar. I was super lucky to get my own question pass, and I asked him about what is my passion in this world, and that is creating the reality where levitation is available to everybody. And it just excites me so much. And his answer was really beautiful, because previously he explained that you can take two balls or one ball on a frictionless surface and have it be in position A and position B. And you can measure both positions. And if you're able to find out the variable that's the distance or where it is in time space, and overwhelm it in position A with position B's frequency, it'll either teleport or just roll right to that position. And when I asked, do you have any like information for me about levitation? He said that you can do this with your own body. You don't need technology, and it'll be as simple. You're actually teleporting, levitating while you're walking. The ability to walk back and forwards and left and right, all that, those angles is exactly the same as levitating up or down. It's just slightly difference in the direction. And if I can come into myself and believe it as I'm walking back and forward, it's the same as going up and down. I'll just be able to do it. And so it's so exciting. And so that was Bashar's talk. And there was, of course, lots of other stuff you guys could probably watch and find other nuggets. But my other experience was in Vivian's triangle, I think it's a tachyon chamber, I believe. And I was sitting there in meditation, just with my eyes closed, and I started to perceive, you know, some kind of shapes in there, and there was a little bit going on. And then about, I want to say like 20 minutes into that meditation, I started feeling like, I saw someone step in front of the light. You know how when you have your eyes closed and you're facing the light source, if someone comes in front of you, it kind of blocks it out. So I saw that happen, and then they blew on my eyes. And I was thinking, oh, that's strange. I wonder if they're trying to wake me up out of the meditation without freaking me out. And so I kind of peeked open my eye, and there's no one there. No one. And so I was like, okay, that was kind of weird. And so I closed my eyes. I went back into the meditation, and it happened again. Just like that. And
you walked by our booth right after that happened. He's like, you won't believe what just happened.
So it happened like 3 or 4 more times. And so I acknowledged that it was an ET presence. And I just got whoosh, all of this frequency throughout my entire body. And it felt so extraterrestrial and so loving. I felt so held in that space. And I was just so grateful for them as well in that moment, that they had given me gentle contact, because I had mentioned to them that I would like to have gentle first contact, because I feel like if they would have shown up fully manifested, I would have freaked out a little bit. And I'm sure everyone probably can relate to that. I talk a big game, but if I'm not expecting it in the moment, that might be a little freaky. So I was very, very grateful. And I actually did a piece of art to commemorate the moment. I'll show you here real quick.
There it is.
And so this is the piece of art. If you could have been seeing through all those dimensions, that's kind of what it would have looked like. And they confirmed that they were an Octurian and that they were here to help me levitate.
Of course, Vivian Chauvet is Octurian as well.
Oh, wow.
So she probably attracts them to her
I'm
booth
sure
and
she does.
her webinars and her workshops and stuff. So they're probably always around.
Yeah. And speaking of, this is
There
her
it is.
husband's work, Peter. And I'll have Zenka come on here and talk about this technology. I've just been wearing it to help me integrate this whole experience, but it's connecting my, I believe it's the star chakra. It's the one above the crown chakra. To the heart chakra, yeah. And it's so powerful, so beautiful.
Yeah, yeah.
And we'll get that information in the chat in a little while, but yeah.
Yeah, so I definitely am starting to think that when I sat down, Peter put the anklets on me and the thing, and then the circle, the copper circle. He's like, okay, reset, and then you turn it on. And I felt so much rush in my body that I am starting to think that a lot of these people who make these special items, it comes along with the agreements with their teams to work with the people that are reaching out to have these healings experiences and whatever, because there's no way that it could be any other way. I mean, when you have I was in another conference and I had we're doing a huge grid with 50 people, and I have massive physical experiences, and I was like, okay, I can't see anything, but I know this is real because my body is completely feeling this, just like Coffee had. So it's really interesting because we don't yet get to have all of our visual senses involved, but it's so great that we can get these confirmations. So highly recommend Peter's stuff. It was really great. Did you try his stuff?
Not this conference, but I've experienced it before. And that's how you know it's real, when you get that visceral feeling, that goosebumps, or however we each respond to this kind of, I would say, multi-dimensional effect that is coming through. So I agree with you, Coffee, at Bashar's, when you asked that question. We are moving up to 5D through the 4D. Now the 4D is kind of a strange place. I've heard it described before as especially the lower fourth dimension, which is where some of the darker spirits reside and ghosts and
astral, or
that it's been described to me. I think Maureen St. Germain said it's sort of like you're driving along a dark highway and you take the wrong exit and you end up in a ghetto, and you want to lock your doors, but you're fascinated by what you see. And you don't really want to get out right there. You want to keep on going to your destination. But the 50, as my understanding is one of pure love and light. And so those who are of that emotional state will be finding their way to the 5D through these other byways and passageways and off ramps.
And 5D will be like you and I sitting in this room, right? You won't really, it's not completely noticeable except within the experience you'll be having, right?
Right. It's not like any of us are going to disappear into the 5D. I think it's more akin to what the Buddhists would say, is that before enlightenment, carry water and chop wood. After enlightenment, carry water and chop wood. And life is going to go on. We're going to keep doing what we do. but we're going to be more aware. So many things are going to start to appear to us in 5D, and things like wearing these incredible amulets will help, just like crystals, just like being around high vibrational material objects will help us understand the shift. And this is really the greatest show in the universe right now. That's why so many benevolent ET races are just observing. They just want to see what happens, because this does not happen very often. We're what's known as an planet, and there's only 8 planets in the entire known universe.
Wow.
And Earth is one of them, and that is
I'm
a
getting
planet
chills.
who is in the ascension stage, that we're in this phase where the Great Awakening is happening, and each one of us are having our individual experiences towards that,
Yeah.
leading to the macro Great Awakening among the whole human race. So while we're in this awakening process, kind of like when you're just waking up in the morning, you're kind of scratching your eyes, getting ready to start your day. That's the human race. We're right there in this very beginning phase of the Great Awakening. So it's a really wonderful time to be an adult human, able to be a part of this change.
Wow.
And really, every one of us has a role to play. You don't have to be a book author. You don't have to be a podcaster. All you got to do is have your consciousness aligned with this great shift. And that's your skin in the game. That's all you got to do.
We should call the other 7 planets and be like,
Hey, Earth
any
planet.
tips? Any tips?
What are you guys going through?
That's so cool. What is your, I admire your curiosity, and it's, you've really put your full life force in following that and bringing all this information forward. What are you most curious about right now? Like, what is the thing that gets you up in the morning going, I can't wait to research that?
Well, in my books and in a lot of the conferences that I present at, I talk about the megalithic sites around the world, how they were created. It's one of the big mysteries. Nobody really knows how some of these really gigantic rocks were so expertly fitted together. Many times association with giants, either being buried at these megalithic sites like Sacsayhuaman and Cuzco, giants buried right there on site, to the legend of giants. And I just came back from the country Laos, and I went out to a megalithic site called the Plain of Jars, where these megalithic jars are 2 and 3 meters tall. I mean, they're just ginormous. And right there in the UNESCO World Heritage Site Museum, it says, the legend is they were created by giants as drinking cups. So they must have been the real big ones,
Wow.
the 20 or 30 footers. And one of the talks I give is on the giants of prehistory and the connection with the megaliths, that if you can consider how a kid, say a 5-year-old kid, can't really lift a cinder block, but an adult can lift it quite easily. So maybe if we're talking about beings that are many times larger than we are,
That's
lifting these megaliths would not be that hard.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Interesting. So, because the Hertogs mentioned that on stage too. I mean, they're saying
Yeah.
0.5 meter is the footprint, and that's verified. So do you, I had this huge bump on my head, and some people are like, oh yeah, you're part of those extended, like you have DNA from those extended head things. Do you think you have giant DNA?
I believe that we carry our DNA lifetime to lifetime. So I've always felt tall, blonde-haired guy, many lifetimes. Unfortunately, some of my lifetimes here on Earth, big guys get recruited into the military. We got to go fight wars. We didn't know any better. You don't have a choice in many cases. And that's why I'm very glad that I didn't have to be in the military, didn't have to kill anyone, didn't have to hurt anyone this lifetime, because we all have our individual karma that we're dealing with. And I think that's why we're humans, that we're in Earth school right now. And things we did not learn in previous lifetimes, you better get it right this time, because this might be all we have to graduate from Earth school.
Yeah. What has been your biggest lessons in your own personal life, like that you've had to level up on? Because I'm pretty sure you're going to graduate.
Hope so. I'm studying really hard. I'm doing my homework. I'm putting in the work, I tell you. Well, we heard this several times. William Henry and other presenters were saying it's all about the vibration. It's all about our own moving into this new frequency, and how we deal with it, and how we treat others. So the whole saying, to be in service to all. I know Bashar said that many times, that you follow your passion, you do what your passion expects of you, and if you can do something that can be in service to others, you're living the highest you can. You're living at that highest vibration, that emotional state, really love, gratitude, just being thankful for the circumstance we are. I mean, everybody's got problems and issues and worries that we have to deal with, but in the end, we're not taking any of this with us. So it makes sense to me to be the very best human being you can, and that is treat everyone with respect, caring, curiosity, and what's your story? How can I learn from you?
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that's how you grow. And we're all growing. Nobody knows everything. We all have stuff to learn. That's why I think it's exciting to wake up every day and what am I going to learn? What am I going to do today? That's why I love to travel so much and see what's going on out there in the world.
Yeah, definitely. So where's the current state of people understanding these giants? Are they admitting it yet? Is it going in the textbooks? Like when you go to visit these sites, are they like, oh yeah, or are they still like, no?
Well, that's a great question, because in this country, in America, it's called Smithsonian Gate, and they have actively even gone into archaeological digs. I profile one in Delavan, Wisconsin, and Beyond Esoteric, where there are these professional archaeologists from Beloit College, and they're uncovering giants, and it starts to make the local newspapers, which then gets picked up by New York Times and national papers. Then all of a sudden the Smithsonian shows up. They're like the FBI, Johnny on the spot, say, oh, well, we're with Smithsonian. We outrank you guys, and we're going to take over the dig here. We're working hard on this. We want to know the results. Okay, well, we'll tell you. They get in touch with them a few weeks later, months later. Hey, what's going on with those giant bones you took out of Lake Delavan? Sir, we don't know what you're talking about. There are no giant bones. I'm sorry, we can't help you. So this is a reoccurring theme in this country. But other countries like Peru, for example, where giant bones have been found and continue to be uncovered, they put them in museums and they're cool with it. And they'll even say, hey, we've had extraterrestrial contact and they have influenced our lives. And in Paracas, Peru, you can go into a museum with these elongated skulls. They're just massive heads, and you can see them at a museum display. So what I often say is these are human-like because they're bipedal, sometimes with 6 fingers, but much, much taller than we are. But then they have these heads, which are just so much bigger than a human head. They just extend out the back, and then you have the Star Child skull. The common denominator with all these giants is that they have Mother Earth DNA. So matrilineal DNA with unknown father DNA. So it's just like the Bible would say that the Anunnaki came down to Earth and they saw the Earth women and they thought they were hot and they mated with them. But because there were 2 different species, it's like when a mule is the offspring of a donkey and a horse.
Right.
It's a different species. It's a hybrid. Yeah. So I do believe these elongated skulls are hybrids, or the Nephilim, which is also a common theme in the Bible.
So Bashar dropped kind of a bomb. I mean, you could kind of feel the audience react to what he said when he said that Bigfoot are what was here on the planet. And it's the line of evolution that happened. And we are Bigfoot plus ETs. So Bigfoot is what would have happened if no ETs had acted with our DNA.
That's right. He said, we're all Bigfoot and we all have an aspect of Bigfoot in us, because had we not been manipulated all those millennia ago, and it's in the Sumerian text that humans were this amalgamation of DNA. It's even evident in our DNA. We all have a little bit of reptilian in all of us. I think it's 13 different species of DNA in the human genome. So we're really this amalgamation of different genomes, and much of that has been the result of mixing with some of these earlier hominids, including Bigfoot. So Bashar said, we're really all Bigfoot. Had we not been manipulated with, we'd still be these multi-dimensional entities. That's why you've never been able to catch a Bigfoot, because you can't. They're multi-dimensional. They can just slip
pop
right away.
Yeah, they pop into another dimension. Yeah, interesting. Yeah. So yeah, because this is what Linda Moulton Howe talked about when we interviewed her. She was like, we don't even know, we have a right to know who our parents are.
Yeah.
And they're ETs.
That's right.
So what do you think about autism? Is like, as we move, as the Greys have worked to, is it machine human hybrids, or is it the Greys started? Because you guys, this is going to be a genetic free-for-all. We have CRISPR. We have all these ET races. It's hybrids. It's not unheard of to do this type of thing. So it's not like, we're like, oh, keep it pure, but we're not even pure. You know what I mean? So it's like it wouldn't feel illogical to them, for example, to do something like this. Yeah. And we do know that the Greys did evolve themselves in a way that ended up not working out, So what do you make of that, of the autistic children, more sensitive to a lot of different frequencies, more mathematical,
or savants who are just these geniuses, but maybe don't have the greatest social skills? Right. Yeah, but keep in mind, there was no such thing as autism 100 years ago. Even when we were going through grade school, very, very few. Now it's 1 in 10. No, it's probably more than that. But I have a feeling it's
But that would be a way for them to put the DNA in, right?
Right. So now the human race is actually split once again. If you look at the huge tree of life, yes, some of the more indigenous humans did evolve from monkeys, did get their DNA mixed with. We were all an aspect of Bigfoot. Now we're this human race with 13 DNA in us, and we've split once again. The tree of life has now turned into Homo borgenesis. And that has to do with this thing.
Yeah. And we can't see into the future, but maybe those qualities are going to be needed.
Maybe.
For sure, they say that those children chose that, before they came, like, oh yeah, I want to do this. But what do you think would be the reason why they would need those extra frequencies, less emotion? Because emotion is something that we come here to work on, but it's also what gets us in the most trouble. Yeah. You can't, the end result is like a Buddha, like you get the call, like, oh yeah, we're firing you today, and you're supposed to be like, okay, this might be actually the best thing that ever happened to me. I'm not going to think that it's bad because I don't know. So it's like, when you have a lot of emotion on it, you're dragging it one way or another, but I guess the evolution is to become slightly less emotional. And yet we come here to have emotions, right? That's what is so fun about Earth. And whatever. We go to movie theater, we go to do all these because we want to feel something.
Yeah. No. Well, I had dinner with Linda Moulton Howe last night, and to be a fly on the wall and hear all the things we talked about. But one of them is the merging timelines. We also talked about the Mandala effect, and she brought that up in her presentation yesterday with the emergence of AI and frequencies. And what we're really dealing with right now, and this is another reason why Earth is such an interesting topic to all the other terrestrials that are keeping an eye on us right now, is that we're in what it could be described as timeline wars, because the hybrids absolutely need their timeline to come true, or else they won't exist in the future. So that's why we've never seen an earthquake at 10 kilometers down at Dulce, New Mexico, where a lot of these genetic experiments are taking place. If there were, it could be the end of several species, which are now being formulated in some of these underground bases. And so the timeline war is to preserve certain timelines of certain species, including the human race, including Homo sapiens sapien, which we are, the purebloods that William Henry talked about, that we're the organic humans right now. And we need to be cognizant of the fact that Homo sapiens sapien needs to continue on in this tree of life. Because in these timeline wars, one aspect is there is a depopulation agenda, an anti-human depopulation agenda. So it really begs the question, who's in charge here? Who's calling these shots? Who's chemtrailing the skies?
No
Who's
pun
poisoning
intended.
us? Well, I mean, maybe there is a pun intended, because they're calling the shots and they're doing this to us. And much of it is against our knowledge or free will. So it does go against the natural laws of the universe, but this is an occultic phenomenon, and I describe it in my esoteric books, that everything they do to us, they have to tell us about in an underhanded, hidden kind of way. But it's called the revelation of the method, where they'll show us in movies and TV shows and music and Super Bowl ads that we were talking about just before, for better or for worse. I mean, we were just commenting how many UFO and ET related commercials during the Super Bowl, with the highest viewership of any program throughout the year. But many of them were good, as you described the Martin Scorsese commercial.
Yeah. We're on the good timeline, you guys. Let's do this. Let's push this way. So, I mean, this is one of the things that I thought to really ask you about today. And I want to, if you're watching on New Realities or Portal to Ascension, you can go to lightnet.org/unlimited to get into the Zoom, because we're going to open up to questions soon. I'm also going to share the link for Peter's pendulums. He's giving us 10% off, which is very kind of him. So here is that in the chat. So this is, okay, let's say you imagine the entirety of existence in a sphere, and you imagine lines going through it as to how you're living. So I'm going this way, my past is this, my future is this. But when I radically better myself and I move my future into a different timeline or different direction, my past also moves, like the tail moves. So I often wonder, like, if, because we want to have a galactic reality, we're creating a lot of ancient aliens, because they would, I don't know, would have to exist.
They would have to exist, right? Because if you broke that timeline, now they wouldn't exist. I thought one of the most mind-blowing interviews I ever saw was with Carrie Cassidy on Project Camelot, with someone who worked with the Looking Glass technology named Dan Burish. They're classics. I've watched them many times over because it's just pure gold. Everything this guy's talking about. And what he was saying is many of the gray aliens that are being captured or found in downed spacecraft are not from faraway planets. They're future hybrid humans who are coming back to preserve their timeline.
Yes.
Because if something were to happen now to their timeline, that would be a big problem.
Well, and that's what the grays are. They're future humans,
right?
That are time traveling backwards. I confirmed that the other day on the radio. Some confirmation, you know. So they said, and that we don't think of time travel as being possible, but it is. And it will be. So will genetic, I mean, I wouldn't mind being part ET. Like, I mean,
maybe you already are. You just don't know it.
Right. Well, I mean, they said probably everybody in here is hybrid. So I wonder what that looks like, how that actually works. One of the things we wanted to do today was to just open one of your books to a random page, because this is how I like to read Brad's books. And so you can get it at cccpublishing.com or Esoteric Series. And so, okay, this is pretty cool.
What'd you flip to?
Okay, I flipped to 288, The Battle for Transparency,
Okay.
WikiLeaks. And I think that's what you were getting at when you were saying, like, anything's okay as long as there's consent, as long as you know.
That's right.
Right? You know, that's kind of what we're asking at this point. And it says human intuition. So intuition is ahead of our, like, being able to prove something, with the facts. Like,
That's
there's
right.
some sort of, just like I'm getting an intuition about tonight's contact, it's like,
yeah.
So do you want to talk a little bit more about WikiLeaks or a matter of dimensions?
Yeah.
Honing our intuition is only one of the enhanced abilities we'll be experiencing as we advance into the next dimension. But what exactly is a fourth or fifth dimensional being? First, let's remember we live in a third dimensional space. How do we know? Simply because we have 3 directions of free movement. Those are left, right, back, forth, up, down. Each dimension above the third has a different degree of light and density. There are 11 levels of density. The ultimate goal is evolution on an individual basis and together as a species. So we fear what we do not know, and fear is another of the negative emotions which will recede in the age of transparency. We'll lose all negative emotions in this process and become happy people. Higher dimensional beings can read the auras of human beings and intuitively sense our energy fields, and they can literally see through our bodies. They're highly telepathic and are invisible to third dimensional beings. They possess more of a group mind. No one can possibly have a hidden agenda because they can see right through you. That's, Altair showed us some documents that said exactly that.
Yeah.
They didn't even associate a soul with a person, like, you're like my soul. They're like, no, it's like they say it's like a shared field, like gravity.
Yeah.
They have a totally different concept.
Right.
Interesting.
And with the Hertax talking about the ultra terrestrials, those that can transverse between dimensional overtones, they can just phase right into our reality. They can be seen, or they can just phase out and not be seen. So this is the field of UFO and ET study that's most fascinating to me, because we can all envision of travelers coming from another planet, extraterrestrials. We can even understand that there are inner terrestrials right below our feet. But the ultra terrestrials, that's when things start to get really interesting. And the page I flipped to, well, that I wanted to show was that, look, time travel has been going on since the 1930s, when Germany developed the bell, and it was fully operational.
It's so funny because I put the bell when we resent the email.
I
was like, I don't know why I'm putting a bell on this email in the header. That's so cool. Tell us.
So they had the ability, I'll just read the caption here, from 1933 until 1945, Nazi German scientists either discovered from prehistory an advanced civilization with some kind of UFO, a Vimana, which we've heard existed in ancient India, which was also part of the wars that took place between Lemuria and Atlantis, and helped end those cultures, which we don't want to see happen again, or somewhere in the Middle East, because the Germans were sending out archaeological parties all around the world. So Raiders of the Lost Ark is very true. They were in Egypt, they were in Tibet.
Wow.
They were in the Pyrenees Mountains, trying to find different artifacts that would help them to become even more advanced than they were. But they would take downed aircraft. They had one in the Black Forest in 1933. They got one from Mussolini, who let the scientists deconstruct it. And so using all these scientific discoveries from the 18th century onward and built in on earlier discoveries. They developed the Honeyboo system of momentum and anti-time, drag static bubble to some degree based on the Helmholtz resonance theory. Other branches of science evolved into the radar system of the magnetron.
Wow.
And the potential time travel and space travel machine called the Bell, pictured here. The Germans developed a highly advanced space program with bases on Antarctica and Mars. And this is where they first developed nanotechnology. If history were to truly be showing who was where what, Germans were on the moon decades before our astronauts were. How they got so advanced, how they moved at light speed technologically is the big question. But some of the paperclip Nazis that came over here, such as Werner von Braun and Hermann Oberth, who when asked, how did you become advanced so quickly, said, we had help from our friends from above. So they were admitting that they were in touch with very advanced ET races. The Hertaks were bringing up Aldebaran yesterday, so was Linda Moulton Howe, that they were working with this very high-tech civilization. And I believe our government is doing the same right now. In my capacity as a book publisher, we've just released Laura Eisenhower's first book called Awakening the Truth Frequency. I wrote the foreword to the book and edited the book. And I'll tell you, she has groundbreaking information in this book. I highly recommend everybody read it, because what she's showing is that her great-grandfather, Dwight D. Eisenhower, inherited this malevolent ET agenda from Truman. Because what happened was Admiral Byrd had to go down to Antarctica to confront the New Schwabenland Nazis on his way back after they were routinely defeated in Antarctica in what's known as the Battle of High Jump, where UFOs came up out of the water. They could have taken out the whole armada. They just sank one ship with a direct energy weapon and then made the armada leave. Several years later, you have the overflight of Washington, D.C. For a long time, people thought, oh, aliens are flying over our capital and we can't do anything about it, when really it was the Honeyboo Nazi craft. And they're basically showing a force to say, you can't mess with us. And in Laura's new book, her contact, who is a white hat whistleblower named Dan Cooper, has been in these programs for a long time. He said that Harry Truman, who was president during the UFO flyover, July 54, signed surrender treaty with the Fourth Reich. And so those were Antarctica Nazi craft that flew over the capital. He panicked, he surrendered, Eisenhower got a raw deal, and Laura is trying to correct the perception that her grandfather sold out to the malevolent ETs with the Greada Treaty. That's not true. Truman did before him, and he was fighting for this information to get out. He famously said, when denied access to Area 51, that he would rally the First Army and invade Nevada to get into Area 51 to find out what they were doing there. And of course, at the end of his presidency in 1960, he had the very famous military-industrial complex speech, and it's only gotten worse since then.
Yeah. So we should discuss Antarctica before we go to questions, but I also want to say, so in there being negative alien agendas, agreements that were made between certain countries with them.
Yeah.
Are there good alien agendas that are happening, and what happened with that? Did other aliens come to the rescue? Were they blocking everyone else, saying, no, this is our planet? Like, what's your opinion about, are there any benevolent alien agendas that are happening with governments today?
Well, there are, and they actually did approach Eisenhower as well at the Holloman Air Force Base, famous connection with some benevolent ETs. Eisenhower essentially said, my hands are tied on this, because the military industrial complex was so hungry for technology that they were basically prostituting themselves out, selling out with abductions, cattle mutilations, to allow that to happen with these malevolent ETs, which I think are all interterrestrials that are coming out of the Archuleta Mesa near Dulce, New Mexico. That's a very old ET base, many layers down, but also a government connection on the upper levels. So the benevolent ETs do follow what we popularized in the Star Trek series as the prime directive. And that is, anytime you have a planet such as ours, an planet, which is in this developmental phase, which is shaking off the yoke of oppression while spiritually evolving, that they cannot interfere directly. So how then do the Greys or the reptilian interfere? Because they're the malevolent ETs. Well, they're interterrestrials. So they were born on planet Earth too. So they actually have a right to do their operations. But because they were holding us down and creating so much problem, that the Galactic Federation stepped in. Turns out after 9/11, this is Alex Collier and the Andromedians told him that they saw that in the future, 350 years in the future, that Earth was going to become a major menace, that we were going to use our technology, much like the movie Avatar, and we would be exploiting planets. We'd just be going around as locusts in the same way the reptilians operate, and just taking over planets. And they said, this is going to be a problem for all of us. So why don't we nip it in the bud now and extract the reptilians and these malevolent ETs from Earth, which they've been doing for the last 25 years, since the Galactic Federation agreed that it is going to be a big problem for all of us. So let's get them out of here. Let's just take them off. We're not going to judge them. We're not going to kill them. We're just going to put them way far away where they can't interfere anymore. And let's see what the humans are going to do when they have no interference.
Interesting.
And that's the state we're in right now.
Interesting. And that's interesting because our communities are looking to different races to, have mentorships and everything else to say, like, I think we'll get there, right?
Oh, we will.
The colonization that we've already done here has been one of the most painful lessons we've had. My generation, our generation has had to go through. Mm-hmm. That's not cool anymore. You can't just go and take stuff.
Right.
So that's interesting. Cool. Well, all right. So let's take one final thought on the UFOs in Antarctica and your thoughts on that. And then we're going to open it up to questions. So feel free to raise your hand. Again, if you're watching online and want to come in the Zoom room, unlimited, lightnet.org/unlimited.
Yeah. Well, there are many agendas that are operating on Earth. It's not just the Nazis that took refuge in Antarctica. There were bases there from a long, long time ago. I've been able to identify at least one of the three motherships, massive crafts, which our intelligence agencies have known about since the 1970s. And they gave them the nickname Nina, Pinta, and Santa Maria. One of those that I've been able to identify through Google Earth, where they were excavating, and it happens to be right there in New Schwabenland. I think the Nazis discovered this in the 1930s when they were flying over this area and making claim on this land, because they were backward engineering this tech. They wanted to learn everything they could, even from defunct old mother ships. And I love it when I can get confirming data points from other sources. And the Farsight Institute did remote viewing on this craft. And yeah, what they found was it is a massive craft under the ice, that it had very, very high ceilings. So it had been built for and used by some form of giants. No longer there, but there are other locations in Antarctica. And some of my interviews with Michael Sala and his whistleblower, JP, is that there are giants in stasis who are just now waking up. So the other thing is you have some of the ancients who once reigned on this planet are now coming into the picture. how they're going to interact and or help us with our ascension remains to be seen.
Wait, so are the giants part of the UFOs in
Yes.
Antarctica? So they're within the UFOs, or they're
Yeah.
part of, oh,
In
interesting.
the arcs,
Well,
as
because
they're
they,
known.
yeah, they would have had to genetically modify them if
Right.
if what Bashar and you were saying is that, okay.
Yeah.
So why did they shrink us down so much?
Well, it's interesting. Me being a real tall guy, people are always coming up to me and asking me how I'm tall, but I also talk to other tall guys. And one guy at a party, he was really tall, like 7 foot, Irish guy. He was taller than me. And he goes, you know, there's not many of us because in the age of hand-to-hand warfare, humans were much taller. So tall males would have a distinct advantage. Therefore, they could choose different females, have big families, and their offspring would perpetuate. The reason why we're small, mainly men, and by extension their offspring, is because the advent of gunpowder. And what happened was, with the beginning of the machine guns starting in the Crimean War, it was just, you're just shooting. So think about in trench warfare, here's my head sticking up, boom, he's dead, he won't be breathing. And that just happened so much that many of the tall genetic lines on this planet through warfare on Earth, it's been a very violent past century, as we all know. The little guys survived. And the little guys mainly came back after war and had big families.
Wow. So Susan is saying the giants came to restore peace on Earth eons ago. Read the Shikasta by Doris Lessing. Interesting.
Not aware of that. But yeah, well, I do my talk on the giants and I show pictures, historic pictures, even recent pictures of some of these elongateds and giants that live to this day. So it does appear that there are pockets of them that have survived, but they don't want to be known. They want to stay out of the purview. But recently I've been using this quote from Karen Hudez, who about 10 years ago was coming out of the World Bank. She was a very high level banker and then became whistleblower. She passed away in October 2022. But she said that there is a separate species that runs the show on this planet. They're not creative, but they're highly analytical. They're very mathematical, and they're the bankers. And one picture I got from Brian Forrester is of a banker in the Basque region of Spain with the big elongated skull. It's quite clear that this guy in particular works in the banking industry, and maybe some of his friends do too. Jacob Rothschild, who just passed away, had an elongated head out the back too.
Wow.
So they're still among us. And I asked Michael Jaco, who I did publish 2 of his books, Intuitive Warrior and Awakening of a Warrior. He was in Afghanistan, and I asked him about the Kandahar Giant. Did you hear about that?
No.
So America goes into Afghanistan after 9/11. A couple years into the engagement, we set up a big air base in Kandahar, Afghanistan. And the locals are saying there's this giant that keeps coming down and stealing our livestock. And we just have these little pea shooter guns. We can't do anything to them. Would you please go up there and take care of this giant? And they're, oh, really? Are you serious? Okay. Well, they went up there to this cave, and there were all these bones skewed around. So the first thing they noticed that were human bones, and it smelled really terrible. So just like in an army formation, there was a guy at point who was going in first, and then all the rest were fanned around. They're moving in towards the cave. Then all of a sudden, the Kandahar Giant comes running out with a lance, gets the point guy up on the spear. He died, but all of our special forces guys aimed their large millimeter ammunition at its eyes, at its head, and they killed the Kandahar Giant. Michael Jaco confirmed this, that they had to come in with a special helicopter and they netted it. It went to Kandahar Air Base. Other witnesses saw it there. And then they whisked it off to Wright-Patterson Air Base, where they do all the experiments and dissections of giants and aliens that they can get there.
Wow. Fascinating. that's like, you know, you go to northern Canada, California, and you're like, oh yeah, someone cut down a tree that was the size of, like, how could you do that?
Right.
Why could you do that? I mean,
well, we have a culture of killing in this country, so
chop it down, man.
Do a whole passage in Beyond Esoteric, living fossil or breeding species. So if this giant in Kandahar was a one-off, well, he would eventually die and then his species would be gone. So the presumption is this cave system goes to somewhere in inner Earth, and there's a whole breeding colony of them in inner Earth.
Right.
So that kind of, and then of course with Bigfoot, how they are able to come in and out of our reality, but some say they come from inner Earth as well.
Cool. We got Michael of Sedona. All esoteric books are must-haves. I agree.
Thanks for listening. Michael of Sedona. Cool.
So I'm gonna, if anyone has a question, you guys can go to the reactions and raise your hand up. It's down there with a happy face, and go ahead and raise your hand up so we have a little bit more time. So yeah, I mean, what has been the most interesting conversations you had with Michael over your trip? I mean, things are changing so quickly. It's like we almost have to deal with current events because, you know, this disclosure movement is getting complicated, unfortunately. But yeah, have you guys? Oh, so someone's asking Sasquatch. Squatch.
Yeah, my ancestors obviously did not participate in early machine gun wars. Yeah, obviously they didn't. And I have a cousin who's as tall as me, and all the men on my mom's side are very, very tall. But it's interesting, on my dad's side, I have cousins who are just 5 foot tall. So we kind of have this mix.
Yeah.
But the other thing that's interesting about my family lineage is we're the Rh negative blood type. So my dad is Rh negative blood. And the second born, who my dad named Douglas, his blood interacted. He was Rh positive like my grandfather was, but my grandmother was Rh negative. His blood interacted with my grandmother and it killed him at birth. He was what's known as a blue blood baby. And he turned all blue. His very young immune system was trying to fight off the antigens from the Rh negative blood. This is very interesting because it happens in no other animal species in the world except humans. That's why I say we're like multi-species in one. And then when you factor in the Rh blood factor, that a mother can kill its own offspring, as it did in my family, it's a big thing. And we always have when our family reunions are together, I always ask my aunt and cousins and dad about the Rh negative blood type. My mom was Rh positive, and so am I, but it's kind of like regressive eye colors. I could very easily have a kid who's Rh negative blood because my dad is, and grandmother, and other members of my family. So
yeah, I mean, I met a guy who had an extra vertebrae.
Yeah,
and his like the iron in his body was off the charts. Like people, like they couldn't even believe it. So it's very interesting.
That's where the blue comes from. So you see in Indian lore, you have Shiva and Vishnu and other gods that have blue skin.
Yeah,
they actually really did have blue skin. It's more metal in the body, which creates the metal, but they can do that because they're a different species.
So it was interesting because Dr. Simeon Hine talked about that the Sasquatch exists on a dimension that has a different vector, kind of like what we were reading about in your book, that instead of being bound by the Fibonacci, it's bound by another vector of math, another organizing principle. And when Uri Geller and other people become super psychic and can start seeing Sasquatch, or I don't know if he has, but he can do other things.
Yeah.
That they're actually stripping their mind out of the electromagnetics of this dimension, attaching to that other vector, and able to pull information back and forth.
Right.
Which kind of was interesting because you were mentioning kind of that the different dimensions have different vectors of light,
right.
you know?
Right. And as we start to become more accustomed to these different dimensions, our perception is going to change. For example, at the conference, we heard that humans can normally see about, 24 colors, but that's going to change. That's going to become hundreds of different colors. So that's just one example of how our perceptions are going to change. We're still going to be the same people we are. We're just going to have different abilities. And so wouldn't it be great if, say, when we went to school, we learned about the chakras when we were in kindergarten, and by first grade, we're already learning about telepathy, and second grade, we're bending a spoon, and by third grade, we're having the Kundalini experience through meditation. And by the time we graduate, we're of this superhuman ability that is within all of us, but we're not being taught that. In fact, we're being taught quite the opposite and steered away from these subjects. But that's the potential that we have, and we can become superhuman in many different ways. Each and every one of us has the ability to do it. And Bashar was very poignant in that fact when people say, "Oh, I just want to thank you for changing my life." And he would say, "No, I didn't. You changed your life." We all have the ability to do this. This is part of our free will on this planet, but you have to know what you're getting into. You have to want it. You can bring a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. So if people don't want to learn this stuff, then obviously they're not going to learn it. You got to really hunger for it. But when you do, it becomes part of your power, becomes who you are, and makes you a better person.
Yeah. Someone said that they're a hybrid and they have a Sasquatch portal in their yard. So I think that's, Sasquatch are who we worked with on doing telepathy. And I'll show you our new experiment. And I encourage anyone listening to join in with us. So we have these egg cartons. We got fancy ones, but you certainly don't need that. And we've placed objects and our names on this side. So this is me, I'm a penny. Coffee's a very fancy glass bead.
Okay.
Adam's a source seed. My son's a crystal. And then we have other things. So this is Judy, she's passed and she has a dime. So we're building the objects. Now we have a bunch of sets of these. So we give this to someone and say, okay, so if you want to send me, so if my son wants to send me a crystal, he would have to move it into this spot,
Yeah.
And so that's what we're doing. And then we've got an infrared camera that will capture the interaction. So, it's funny you mentioned, like, we got to teach the kids telepathy because someone came to our booth and they were like, "Oh, I have these children's books on how to do telepathy."
I got those books.
Okay, cool.
She came over and said, "Can I trade you for one of my books?"
Yeah.
Said, all right, sure.
Yeah. So that's, same thing. We were like, okay, cool. Let's trade and let's put it in the shop. Then, that's the thing. We've got to collect these somewhere, and we have to start trying this stuff. I mean, you can't learn. There's no science kit for teleportation yet, but now if we can think of fun ways to do this with your friends and loved ones, I mean, you're obviously going to it's going to be easier to send your boyfriend or your friend something than it is someone random. And I believe, so these top 4 are all extraterrestrial past loved ones. So that, they'll probably be better at it than we are. So yeah. And I think we're ready for it. I mean, we're evolving, and I think that it should be pretty interesting.
I like it.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Non-local communication too.
Yeah. I mean, because it's similar to the levitation. And I was thinking about it the other night. I was like, this isn't going to fly out of the thing and over here. It'll just be over there.
Right.
It will just phase over there, and probably, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. That would be my.
Have any of them moved yet?
No, well, we're just collecting we just set them out like 2 days ago, and we're collecting the final pieces. And so we're going to invite, I don't know, we'll see if Yuri wants to do it. I don't know. Linda wants to. We'll see who gets involved. But this is, once we do it with our little group, then we'll and we want you guys to already start doing it. So it just takes an open mind to break reality. And that's what we're asking everyone to do. Like, go talk to the Sasquatch. You know what I mean? It's going to take one person, then another person. It's going to take these people the 4-minute mile.
And by the way, Sasquatch is telepathic. And often puts out messages.
Cool.
And people feel I'm trespassing here and feel this foreboding. I got to turn around and leave. And then Sasquatch often breaks trees off to create barriers. And so we can learn from Sasquatch. And if Bashar's information is correct, then we all have an aspect of Bigfoot in us.
Right. I love that. And we've talked a lot about how our rational mind, our foreheads are actually what's preventing us from doing this stuff more.
Yeah.
So if we can channel our inner Sasquatch that doesn't have the logical no, this rule, that rule, because this doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
It's only, so we need, that's what we do in Spooning, get people out of their head, so yeah. Well, cool. So what's next for you? Where are you off to after this trip? Or what's in your next 6 months looking like?
Yeah, a lot of conferences coming up, but first heading out to see my family in Colorado next week. Family ski trip in Colorado and then Utah, and then I'm flying to the eclipse in Texas. I'm one of the speakers, and Team Light, Boscop, Texas.
Cool. Those guys are really
they're really cool.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that, and meeting some friends before that, and doing a little tour of Texas, doing the eclipse, of course, which is a really phenomenal experience. I was in the one 2017.
Silence, right?
Oh,
just
man.
like before
all the animals go quiet too.
Yeah. Same thing with big ships and stuff. It's like, why did everything suddenly get so quiet?
Right.
Wow. So what was it like, the animals, everything?
Well, first of all, you're kind of seeing the day getting a little bit darker, and if you wear the glasses, you can see the moon transitioning right over the sun. And then for about 3 to 5 minutes, depending on where you are in the totality line, everything goes dark in the sky. You can see the stars, the moon, but all around the horizon, it's like it's twilight. It's still light out. So it's a phenomenon you've never experienced before until you see a full solar eclipse. It's just so cool. And then, as you said, everything goes quiet before the birds are chirping and dogs are barking, and everything goes quiet. Even the humans are just in total awe. But it's benign, so nobody gets hurt. It's not like you're in an earthquake or a volcanic eruption nearby, getting buried alive like in Pompeii. But you're just experiencing the wonders of nature, and I highly recommend it. This will be my second full solar eclipse, and now at a festival. It's cool to be around like-minded people and a bit of a party. So Leo King and other DJs will be playing. And so then I come back from that and I go right out to LA the following weekend for the Alien event and the Biomed at LAX airport. And I'm a panel moderator, and I'll be speaking. I'll have my books for sale at all these events. I also produce the How Weird Street Fair in San Francisco. I'm a co-producer on that.
That sounds.
So I'll be back May 4th, downtown San Francisco. Although people rarely see me, I'm working behind the scenes. So that's just my role.
May 4th is the 4th.
May the 4th be with you. Yeah.
May the 4th be with you.
International Star Wars Day.
Yes.
But then 2 weeks after that, I'm flying to Illinois for the Journey to Truth. That's a great conference. Down near St. Louis on the Illinois side. And then, so we always go out to Cahokia Mounds, one of the biggest mound sites of the mound builder people, another great enigma of history are these massive mound cities, which are very similar to the Mayan and Central America cities, a giant central pyramid and then an open plaza with sub mounds all around it. So, and there again, giants were buried right next to Monk's Mound at Cahokia. We met a local historian last time. But if you go into the museum and you ask about it, still Smithsonian Gate in this country, they will not give you a straight answer. They just don't know in most cases. Because where I live, I bought a ranch out in northwestern Nevada, where I am now. That's in giant country, and there are caves all around. There was an ancient lake during the last ice age where all that area was underwater, and the mountain ranges were islands, and all around the high level watermark in the caves, they found these very big giants.
Wow.
Yeah, so I'm out there now. I want to do some exploration this summer.
Lift some rocks yourself.
Yeah, right.
Line,
make our own megalithic structure there on my ranch. But and then let's see. So in June, then I have Integrative Wellness Conference in Las Vegas. That's going to be a good one.
Yeah.
And also Disclosure Fest is going to be another one in LA. And then July, I've got back to back. I'm one of the keynote speakers at the MUFON Symposium in Dallas, Texas. So another trip to Texas, doing my Hidden Anomalies of Antarctica talk in front of a huge audience, like 800 people, and then simulcast to all the MUFON branches.
Cool.
So that's a big honor to be asked to speak at that. And then going up to Mount Shasta for the Mount Shasta Summer Conference. That's a good one. Then a whole bunch coming in the fall. I'll be back here in Sedona.
It's like you're like a paper delivery. It's like you're physically going to take this important information, because that's really what it's been, is people in the truth movement getting together, sharing information, getting these books out, getting, having the conversations and watching it all come to light.
It's exciting time to be alive and to be a human in an adult body during this transformational period, and just play our part. I do my books, you do your podcasts, we all contribute in the way we can, and that's what Bashar said. Just follow your passion, do what you can do to be in service to all, and things are going to work out.
Okay, cool. We have one question before we close. Suzanne, welcome.
Thank you, Zenka and Brad. This is delightful, and I appreciate you so much, Zenka, for bringing all these groups together and all these people together to explore further why we're here and the purpose for us being here. And I think the biggest purpose is for us to unite in a way that we can help to transform others and share the information that we know of who and what we really are as love, and to get the message out. So I'm just wondering, is there a way that you can see that we could have groups coming together in a way that we could sit in a way to invoke a lot of these energies and send them out into the world to transform it, the skies, the air, the pollution that's coming out, the dimethylamine that they're putting in the skies that are causing me to get congested and everyone else, I'm sure, too, and poisoning us. So how can we, because we're all here for this special time, we chose to be here, every one of us, whether we know it or not. So how can we come together in a way that we can spread this information and share it?
Well, aren't we going to do that tonight?
Yeah, we're gonna
gathering.
Yeah, and Zazer was talking about that too. I think part of it's just you can telepathically and you can send out your energy when you do it in a group. It's strong. It can be really strong. It's not exactly necessary. But yeah, I mean, Michael Sedona's on, and he says, like, yeah, being in physical contact is exponentially more, and then if you all have a similar intention. So I think it's already happening. I mean, we're able to get together now, and I think, so geoengineering, I was looking, I thought, so I don't know. I mean, we should have a calendar of where people are doing more group sessions so that people can jump on and do it in mass. But I think these conferences that you're going to, you know,
are you.
Yeah, I mean, that's really, it's
a like-minded group that we're together with, and when you hear the presentations, you come away with more understanding and knowledge than when you went in. So I can't recommend it enough, not just because I'm one of the speakers or Zenka is too, to learn from people who have really devoted their whole lives or are these channels like Bashar and can bring through this information from higher intelligences. And look, let's just be open-minded about this stuff. We're at an age where a lot of this is very new information, and we're all learning at our own speed, but it's a great time to grok all these subjects.
Yeah, and I think we need to find ways that we can end all this stuff flying in the air. Because I know in Canada, we are being bombarded across the entire country. Since January, they have been adding this dimethylamine to the chemtrails, which is actually destroying everything. It's taking the saturation out of the air. We had snow here. I was in Kauai for a month of January. And as I was flying out from Toronto across the country, the whole sky was completely flat. It was a flat gray cloud. It covered the entire country from Toronto all the way to Vancouver. And I could see on the coastline, it ended there. And then when I flew on to Kauai, it was beautiful. The air was clear and sunny and wonderful and warm and cumulus clouds. There is none of that in Canada right now. It's all this flat gray, and it's been like that. Apparently it was like that the whole time I was gone until I came back, and still like that now. And we've got a sunny day today, but I see these chemtrails going and they're starting to make that gray again. But we had no sunny days. The weather has been bizarre. We had temperatures up, 14 degrees, which is in Celsius. So, which is quite warm for here. And January has always been like blizzards and lots of snow and cold, but nice sunny days. There's no cumulus clouds left in the skies.
Susan, I just wanted to add, if you're feeling so drawn to talk about this and to bring this up in the first place, don't let anything stop you from gathering groups, because you're able to do this. And that's why you're having this passion in you. You're able to gather your friends and your family and just start meditating on this stuff, because your ability to change that is through meditation and your awareness towards it. That's going to build the field and help to dissipate those clouds. And you're in that area for a reason. It's so you can see it, and so you can know what's happening, and so you have this passion to change it. So change it, do it, because you're so capable, and we love you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm working on that up here. So, but I'm grateful, so grateful for this group and bringing these energies, all these great people together to be able to assist in that as well.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, Ruth. You're going to be the last.
I know you're trying to close up. I appreciate it.
No problem.
Thank you both so much for today. I just want to know, what is your understanding about why the Middle East, and in particular Jerusalem, is always such a flashpoint over and over and over? Is this a cosmic download of something that we are supposed to learn from it, something other than time travel and all the other things you talk about? Is there some special lesson for us that we just keep going through this over and over again there as the center?
I've been to Jerusalem twice. It's an amazing city. Of course, it's the focal point of 3 Western religions: Christianity, Islam, and Judaism. So you have that much focused religion and prayer, it's going to affect the location. It is one of the most sacred places in the world. And I found it interesting that, remember about 10 years ago, there was that video of an orb right over the Dome of the Rock, and it was filmed from 3 different locations,
Right.
really indicating its authenticity. And it just hovered there over the Dome of the Rock, and then just shot right up. So there's also an extraterrestrial interest in Jerusalem.
Yeah. So, but why? What are we supposed to be learning from that? Do you believe? I mean,
What we're supposed to learn-
why is that, with all the prayer and the consciousness about God, why is it such a troubled place? You would think it would be just the opposite. So why are we getting these terrible storms of violence over and over and over again? And what's keeping it there? Why is it? It's, of course, it's a sacred place. There are other sacred places in the world that I've visited too. So it's not the only sacred place, but
Right.
I'm trying to figure out if there is some planetary or galactic interest in, or does it have to do with metals that are there, or what is the interest of the universe in that particular place? I don't know, maybe you can't answer me. It's just something that I ask myself a lot. And one person said to me that he believed that Jerusalem was the portal to our world, that it was like the umbilical cord where everything happens, and that the forces of good and evil are arrayed around it. Because if peace were to break out in Jerusalem, peace would break out in the whole world. It's so important as a place. Did you believe that?
That's an interesting concept. Of course, we all know what's going on in Gaza right now, and
Right.
that's not too far away. Fortunately, Jerusalem has been relatively immune to a lot of the terrorists or the violence that we see not too far away from there. It's just, I would put it as part of the cosmic struggle right now between the light and the dark forces. And this is just one of the flashpoints where it's happening in Gaza and the Middle East and the Ukraine right now. Nobody wants to see these wars go on or continue. It's just sort of the big showdown that's happening between light and dark right now. And so you could be right, Ruth, that maybe Jerusalem is this place where the big showdown has to take place, and then we come out of this on the other side and it becomes the capital of world peace. That's what I would like to see.
Okay, from your mouth to God's ears.
Okay.
Thank you very much. I am.
Yeah, wouldn't that be amazing that
Yeah.
that become the capital of peace?
Wouldn't it?
That
And that's
would-
actually what it means, is city of peace. Jerusalem, I'm pretty sure that's the
Yeah.
full
and
interpretation.
how interesting, and what Ruth is saying. She's like, well, it's the central of religion. How could it be like this? Like,
Right.
what is going on that has become not true? So yeah.
And I saw an amazing thing happen when I was in Jerusalem many years ago, when the Dalai Lama was visiting there. There was also lights that emerged over the Tower of David, where he was in the old city, that nobody had ever seen before. And people were commenting on it. It was in 1994. Let's see, it was 1994 that happened. And people afterwards wrote about it. They had never seen the same conjunction of the way the lights were over in Jerusalem. It happened in Jerusalem while he was visiting there. And so it felt very much like that was part of the visit, that he brought special blessings and cosmic attention to the place. So, and this, what you mentioned, was 10 years ago, right? That we're over the
orb around there, give or take a year.
And Michael's of Sedona is saying that this was the last landing place of the creator giants. So yeah, how interesting.
And of course, it's riddled with caves underneath Jerusalem, even the Crusader caves, where they found some kind of immense treasure that enriched the Knights Templar, and then the caves around Qumran and the Dead Sea, where the Dead Sea Scrolls were found. So there's also an underground aspect to Jerusalem.
Michael's got his camera out on Michael. So Michael has the fame of you know, having after his contact, he can answer any question that is asked to him. And he often on his UFO tours allows his customers to have this interaction with him. So Michael, what, you know, Rose bringing up a great question. What do you say? What do you?
Well, the Jerusalem, is my audio coming through? Can you hear me?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay. So, yeah, wow. This is an intersection of a couple of timelines that were separate and are now kind of folding together. Jerusalem was the last major landing point of the creator gods that created the fifth variety of human, which was the Arab. So the African, the Asian, the Scandinavian, the South American, and the Arab were the five creations. They all had different creator gods, these mythological creator gods. And since that was the last landing point of great creator gods, the huge monolithic things in that area that are still there and not, 450 feet underground because of everything that's happened in the last 100,000 years. This was only 12,000, 11,000 years. So that was the last landing place of creator gods. And so Jerusalem is holy for the entire region and will be, no matter if 94 religions pop up, because it's in the DNA.
Wow. Interesting. Well, let's get to the timeline. I mean, they say that Sedona wants to be the new Jerusalem, but I would actually prefer it to be there.
Yeah,
I mean, that would be much more poetic if it was just straight up there.
Sedona can be the Crystal City.
Yeah, we're the Crystal City. They're
Keep
the
it
new,
at that.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thanks so much to everybody for joining us today. And we loved having you guys. We loved having Brad. Thank you, Brad, for publishing other people's works beyond your own and creating. Once again, you can find Brad at esotericseries.com or ccpublishing.com. So we look forward to seeing you guys all. We're going to be having cool, Michael's showing his book too. We're going to be having a talk and a workshop this week on this month on missing time. So stay tuned for that and we'll see you there.
Thank you so much. God bless you.